Remember, recover, return. Yeah, I'm fed up, man, the world's in decay. Everybody's selfish, lost in the sway. Church got secrets, but here's what I say. Truth ain't that complex, it's been here always. Look, they twisted the story, flipped it disguised. Told us to search out there, but truth's inside. The church got a vault where the knowledge stay hid, but the greatest all tried to show us what they did. Yeshua, Magdalene, they unlocked the soul. Kelly and Shiva showed how to get whole. Mother Mary whispered, the kingdom's within. Tesla sparked visions that ain't just pretend. It's simple, yo, go inward, get still. Tune in the ancestors, feel what they feel. Ether, plasma, that energy's yours. The door is always open, stop waiting for more. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. They got us divided, distracted by screens, lost in illusions, caught up in schemes. But Joan of Arc stood, even burned at the stake. She knew the truth that no fire could break. Maria Orsic tried to tell us to rise. Tesla drew circuits straight from the skies. Edgar Cayce, dreaming through time and space, gave us the blueprint, the whole human race. Haters beat hums in the heart of the earth, reminds us all of divine rebirth. The path is ancient, but clear as day. Go inside, that's the only way. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns.
Tell me why I can't remember, recover, return. And greetings. Greetings, Mother's people. I come on behalf of her, and I really sincerely ask your pardon for, any goofing. And we just want to know, people to know that we need you. I flew high with eagles soaring. I killed kings and Hermann Goring. I'll take the earth, but it's just boring. Tell me why I can't see you. Because what's crazy is, for those people who love each other, the danger is you may never be this person again. And the big decision, if you really want to go home, is, are you the person you want to be? Are you the man you came here to be? Are you the woman you came here to be? And let me tell you that if your attitude is you're more important than an ant crawling on the ground, then you're going to be smashed by the giant ant. Because, and let's remember, recover, return, as I stutter, in Mother's name, in Maria Orsic, the goddess's name. And I want us to remember that UVRW and W is literally U times 2. Because in Lucifer's world, and his world, his greatest art is the story of this simulation. The first God is one on one new one, right? I'm talking Anunnaki, Sumerian mythology. As far as we know, or as far as I know, that's the earliest. But I'm just on behalf of my teachers, speaking to you as their vessel. You know, and the very first God is one new one. And his wife is also the very first God because they're one and she's one too. And their daughter was Ishtar, Isis 3. That's why Maria loves 3 so much, because that's Donna, and that's, like she said, Joe, you said it but didn't know what you meant, but someone has to be it. Donna has to have friends. And little old 12-year-old me in the real first-time reality had a thought. I wonder if anyone prays to the Queen of Atlantis. She said, because I was using my intuition, which really doesn't exist. What exists is the actual essence power of your mind, which is the projection of the true self personality, which projects the avatar's personality. And we want you to be aware and beware of all the imitators and fakes from the process church, like Ledbetter, like Robert Monroe, like Tom Campbell. You fake fucking pricks. You can suck a dick. You can suck Satan's dick, you fucking pricks. Because you're nothing but boring. Like she said, only these cunts, Maria. Let me quote her. Only these cunts could make the truth so boring. Because they're not really telling you the truth. And you always hear the same thing coming out of their mind. And I challenge you on this. Every time some way or another comes out of their mind, Hitler, and why would this 75 years later be of importance right now? Hitler, murders like Hitler. Hitler was a cause of World War II. Let me tell you, I'm watching in real time, and they're going to say Putin was a cause of World War III, and I'm watching in real time. These people do nothing but lie and blame him for things that he didn't say, didn't do, backed him into a corner, put a gun to his fucking head and said, are you going to fight back? You going to do something about it? Why don't you do something about it? These, it's one way or another. It's hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, you're not in the game. If you're lukewarm, if you don't have any enemies, you're not in the game. People are like, oh, why you got to be so dark and negative? Hey, easy for you to say. You're not living in a tent. No one's stealing your land. No one's blowing up your children. No one's burning your family alive. Tom Campbell. Suck a dick, dude. You suck. You're a fucking robot. Yeah, we're in a virtual reality, and people like these people have come to lie to you and act so innocent. Oh, I'm just an innocent guy. I'm just a regular guy that worked for secret government programs. And I'm telling you for real, we are coming to you from inner Zion, Vril Sun, the purple sun of Maria Orsic, who is Magi, who is wife, daughter, mother of Lord Shiva, Allah Lucifer Jah, Alleluia. Say it, Alleluia, Alleluia, Hallelujah. As we give him praise, because what is the UVW, the V, the 5? I'm don't even know myself. I'm just transmitting to you. What it is, it's the love language of the God of this world, and his name is Odin, Balder, Lucifer, Mithras, Shiva. And he is absolutely insane and completely sane all at the same time to encompass that polarity of experience. He had to drive himself insane to make sure he knew for sure and 5 sure what life was about. He put himself through these things, and he blames no one and takes responsibility for every action that he's ever taken. And the action that put him in the virtual pyramid in Aldebaran, Jupiter, and he was initiated into a caste that imagines their own worlds. And Maria has taken me to some of these worlds, and these are places most humans aren't allowed to go. And I suppose some of the authors that we read and listen to have been to these places because they looked like elf world or Smurf world or beautiful, symmetric. Everything was so symmetric and so colorful and like Maria said, I get a lot of my ideas back then on First World Earth and now, from visiting these worlds. I get ideas for clothing, for my dances, and that's why if I'm allowed to come here, I come here often, and I try to bring my children here. And it was like we were looking from afar. But first we traveled, which was interesting to me. She said, the whole concept of distance this is Maria, talking to me in another world. This is probably like a year or two after we started this, and I knew she was Maria. And this was definitely in the sex magic portion of our teachings, because she was trying to show me that the eternal orgasm feeling of pleasure is a location in the astral world, if you want to call it that, or the virile world, or whatever you want to call it. Some people just say the other worlds is good enough. But to think that there is only heaven is goofy and simplistic and childish. And it's a easy way to justify your selfish, boring life. And I'm sorry to be mean to you and know that you don't know any better, but someone has to say it, Someone has to be it, because as it was, so it will be. And this way of life has to be destroyed by Kali Mother, because you have no respect for the earth. You have no respect for living things all around you that vibrate. And your vibration is not good for me or Mother or people like us. And in the ashrams of Allah, Lucifer, Yahweh, Alleluia, the new communities, the new communes, ashrams, centers of teaching that will be built, people who value fancy things will not be allowed in. They'll have to wait outside, and maybe one day their vibration will change. But just know that if you look at life and say, what's important is the quality of my car, my house, my investments, and all that, you won't be allowed. It's not, up to people like me. It's up to your true self that's set these parameters, you know. And like Maria said, we wish, the whole world listened and listened, obeyed, and became. And people are like, I don't like that word obey. But listen, when you're a dumb child and someone knows better, this is the time. I agree with you. Most of the time we should rebel, but there's a time when, this is very dark, but Maria just said, go ahead, I want you to say. I know of a comedian, and this happens all the time. I'm just trying to show that sometimes there truly is a teacher who loves you and is telling you, listen, you have to listen to me and do exactly as I tell you. This is important and delicate if you want out of here. If you don't, if you think everything's just something else, and like she said, it can be a party, The war dance can be a party or it can be a panic. And she said, if it's a panic, we're going to lose. You're going to lose. Lose where it's important, right? What am I talking about? The things that determine whether you leave the matrix or not and go home where there is none of this pressure. Let me guarantee you, my people back home, you don't have a job with a boss where you are pressured. You have no bills. There's, people talk about free market capitalism. None of that exists, really. Back home, that hardly exists because people do not have bills, debts. They have a place to live given to them to own forever. And basically food, clothes, and shelter are provided to you. And basically you could go to any simulation provided to you by the universal world government known as Atlantis, Phoenix, which is totally represented by the Amanita mushroom. The dome is represented by the Amanita mushroom because the mushroom knew the future. The mushroom knew before we knew because it's not from here. It's from another world. It's from the world we went to. And it knew that we would be living under a dome one day. And the whole fucking story of you, me, the reason why I said to myself, you're the mushroom, and why Lou said to me, I'm the mushroom, is because that is the actual reality reflected. The mushroom is from another world. Your true self is from another world. We're not physical beings, and the mushroom is a invisible spore, like your true self. And it's all in the story of the life of the mushroom, which is the mycelium of all. It is the body of all living things. The earth, and you're going to say, I'm a scientist, I know, but you're wrong. The earth is a mushroom. And like she said, So be it. Let it be. Because the mushroom chooses the individual. The individual doesn't choose the mushroom. The initiation of my wife, Maria, said to me, take that Merkaba stone, the six-pointed 3D stone, and put it to your wife's head. When I did, she went, oh my God, Grandma, you're here. And she had like a 5-minute conversation with her grandma who had died like a year previous or 10 months previous. And Maria was saying to me, it was 100% one-on-one, her with the mushroom, and the mushroom decided to bring her grandmother to her. And she said you could bring 100 other people and that wouldn't happen. It's the mystery, Joe. It is the mystery of Eleusis. It is the mystery of Mithras. And so be it, let it be. As it was. As it is. We are. And let's just give thanks to the actual mystery that keeps us interested in life. And I mean, it is pretty obvious. What I was saying, the V, the 5, the U, the W, it's all about you. If it's not, you can't get out of here. Because you have to start at the right place. You have to have the right foundation. And it can't be about anyone else, because you are laying on a bed of technology. And your whole being is immersed in this technology. And you cannot overcome the technology. And there is a whole group of people who enjoy, and you're allowed because you're not really being harmed. It's all a hologram. It's all, you're walking in holographic life. And the reason why Maria doesn't like simulation is it takes away the power of the threat that some of the people who are real to you right now, if you don't get out of here, you may come back here and plead with those people, and it won't be them. It will be a simulation of them or a hologram of them, and the AI will play out exactly as their DNA vibration would have it be. But that's exactly what we've come to overcome. Exactly what we have come to overcome is the algorithm of who we thought we were on Venus. But we never suffered. As Maria said to me, as a child, when you were first sick, she said, I was so worried about you because I knew you had never been sick before, ever, in any way, shade, or... And she said, I'm talking about when you were a baby, like 3-4 days old. She said, to tell you the truth, I kept you alive. She said, and if I showed you what was going on in the hospital, St. Mary's Hospital, where you were born, you would be afraid right now. Because as she said, we don't understand these people. They harass us. They choose to spend their time hurting other people, not us. People are, oh, don't be. You know what's really negative to the victims is people who ignore the predators. If you're ignoring the predators, you can't come in to the ashrams of Yahweh. Because we have to start to teach our children to respect everything that is alive and to live in harmony with it now. And people are like, there's no way. There's no other way. And this is what I was told as I was brought before. Anyone that's been listening to my whole story will know, how this all fits together 20-something years later. Kristen and the Rastafarian demon church fell in 1999. That was the end. So here we are 26 years later. And man, for 14 of those years, all I asked for was the next thing to teach me how to get out of here. And I didn't even limit it to one life, because in my, intuition, which thank the gods is wrong most of the time, or at least 50% of the time. I kind of thought it doesn't really, I'm starting so late, it doesn't seem possible, maybe. Maybe it's not even possible that I would learn everything in this life, but maybe the next round. And then that was at the beginning of the ritual. And I was reading Miguel Serrano, and he says something like that, and I believe it is Avatar. He says, I don't know how, but I pray to the gods that may I escape this eternal return. And I thought, man, there's no way. If he don't think he's getting out of there in that time, there's no way. But Maria told me there is a way. And I'm here to help you. But she said, I'm telling you, this is another time she said, Joe, look at me. Look at me. Look me in the eyes. And when I looked exactly in her eyes, it felt like I was falling forward into her eyes. And she was like, I'm not fucking around. I'm not bullshitting, as you would say. You have to make this your single fucking goal, and you can't be missing this ritual ever. And all of a sudden, and she's right, she came to help me. And I've had other people in my own life say, yeah, it's not really fair that she's helping you. Like, I have to do this alone. You don't. We can do it together. We have to find a fucking way. And the Lu is the way. He is going to provide that way. But I'm saying this encompassing circle that had to be broken, that on 5/5/2024, I was standing at the throne of Alleluia, and he said he would like me to call him Yahweh, and that he was, and he took me into other frequency fields and, thought. It was like multiverse thought. being around the great Lou, and he was showing me when you were a Rastafarian. He was like, I am the Jah you were praying to. He was like, your spirit knows me, and really in like emergencies. And let me give you a perfect example, because he gave me this example. Me and my wife this was like, I was like 22 years old or something, 23 years old. Me and my wife had drove all the way to the Florida Keys, and we had, like 3 or 4 ounces of herb with us. We don't like to say weed. Weed is something else. This is a healing herb. And something had told me to hide it in the, we had went to the laundromat before we left. We had like a basket of clean clothes that were all nicely folded. And something told me to take the herb and hide it, really wrap it up and put it in the middle of those clothes. And of course, 1 o'clock in the morning, we get pulled over in Florida, and the cops are acting, very suspicious, just whole crazy, what are you doing? Where are you going? On and on. Can we search the car? And my wife was driving. And my wife goes, well, we have no drugs or anything. Yeah, go ahead. And the clothes basket with, the 3 ounces of weed was sitting on the back seat. It's kind of a hidden in plain view story. And it was, like I said, it was wrapped up good so you couldn't smell it. And I was outside of the car with the other cop and my wife, and I watched him pick up the clothes, kind of pat the clothes, and kind of look in it a little bit, and just push it to the side and search the rest of the car, search the trunk and everything. And the entire time, I was such a sold out Rasta because it was all supernatural to me. I was like, this is the fucking truth. You Christians are fucking dumb. Haile Selassie is the Christ, And on this night, 5/5/2024, Lou was showing me, you were pretty much right. Haile Selassie was, but Haile Selassie can never be God over you, because you're God over you and you always will be. And, in that context, there's no God, no teacher, no rulers ever. Ever, Joe. Ever, Joseph. And he was like, I am telling you. Anyway, the entire time I was praying about the cop and the clothes and the herb, I was just praying over and over, Jah Rastafari, Haile Selassie, I know you're real. I know you're real. Protect us. Protect your healing herb. Protect your plant, And when he pushed it aside, I just felt like Jah's with us. And that night on 5/5/2024, he said, I was the Jah you were praying to, and Haile Selassie was my vessel, like you are now. He was like, what's it about? I said, it's about being the vessel. He said, of who? I said, and I paused and looked at Maria, and I looked at him, and I thought, of the true self that's one with all of you. And he was like, exactly. He's like, didn't matter what you said, Joe. My mind, I'm the God of this world. I decide these things. And he said to me on October 5th, and I never could understand how I was like seeing what was going to happen in Gaza 2 days. I mean, it's been happening for 70 years, but in my own way, put it this way, I had the craziest, as I've described, experience with a being 10 foot tall who said, it surprised me when he said, I'm Allah. And that was October 5th, 2023, 2 days before the genocide in Gaza began. And he was saying to me, I am that person. And I decided that night that your true self, I've come. He said, what have I always said? I said, every time I think I've talked to you before, because I did talk to him several times, but he was small, or he was invisible, or this or that. And I never knew exactly who he was. He always said to me, the highest work is to reflect someone's true self back to them. And that's what I said to him. And he said, on October 5th, that scarf, what I meant by that is you have become your ancestors. Like the mushroom said, who are you? I'm your ancestors. Who am I? You're the mushroom. Then who are you? I'm you. We're one. And when your true self told me he is his ancestors, give him the magic scarf. And what they were trying to say is, you genuinely didn't put yourself above her, and you genuinely cried tears for your own ancestors who suffer without mention, without recognition, without respect. And it's a tragedy. It's gross. The white race, Christianity, Western culture, Western history is such a disrespect to our ancestors who died at the hands of wanting to be, died at the hands of people who wanted them to be separate from their ancestors, from the land, from the trees, from the people, from the mushroom. And as they were slaughtered, they shrunk themselves down and they ran into the stones. And they are the fairies. And what they always say to the murderers is, you only helped us know what was eternal and what you couldn't take from us. Thank you. You see, if everyone's lukewarm and in the middle, nothing, swings, nothing turns, nothing, the world don't turn. If everyone is in the middle, that's not really balance. Because it never has to be balanced. And truly, I am here to tell you, okay, separate from the vessel of Maria and everything, the most craziest experiences I ever had were mistakes that I made in the actual shamanism of like drinking too much or not knowing exactly what I was drinking. And I mean, it was so clearly shown to me. Like, I was like a robot of the true self. And I didn't even know what I was doing. And you have to wonder if people know what they're doing around you, you know? Like Lou and Maria have said, Joe, on this plane, it's obvious. Like, you could pick one person out of a million because the whole million, the whole 999,999 are dark, and there's only one shining. You're like, obviously, that's the one. He's like, that's how, you know, vibration works. You know, and people are like, why you're just a complainer and a bitcher. You're just bitching about the convenience of the, no, it's already dead. I'm not bitching about it. I'm trying to say we have to leave and we have to live a different way. That's Maria Orsic's message, but I lived through all of it, and our story is going to be written down for people to, learn from, that all things do work together for good. Like the pushing to the, it's like the give me convenience or death culture. I was once part of it, and I didn't vibrate with it. I had to. It was killing me. It kills us, our people. The vibration makes us sick, because the quality of every life. And of course, there are inherently evil people, and that's what we're constantly fighting. So, the exceptions, but the rule is most people are completely innocent and deserve for us all to unite together to protect each other, and we shouldn't ever look to a phantom power that doesn't really exist called government or, official state, da da da. We don't need a notary. We don't need to be official. What we need is individual conscious rebellion and protection. We need to start with the foundational premise of protect the innocent. No one, anywhere, has the right to take an innocent person's life. People that have nothing to do with it, you're never allowed by the God of Alleluia, the God of this world, you're never allowed to take out any of your anger or frustration on someone who does not deserve it. You do not ever. It will never. It is against universal human code enforced on all planets, and the Aldebaran giant gods that lived before us will never, ever. Like they said, that is why there is no evil on Aldebaran. They'll admit there's evil on Venus, but it's put away in its simulation, the Earth simulation. And I know there's a whole sect of people out there. It's like, I don't want to have an enemy. I'm tired of that. But it's, this is the last time I'm going to say. Please, I hope, don't even open your mouth or think it unless you've suffered in the natural as bad as people you see on the internet suffering. You know? Unless your child has been burned alive in front of you, you know, and you live in America and you paid for that, you should just shut the hell up, and listen to me. And, you know, there's two roads before you. And, you know, like Maria said, let's address people who say, I don't need the mushroom. Even you said, I'm God over me. True. And if you're not the mushroom, then you're not of our caste. And you're never going to agree with us. And it, like she said, we actually separate for those people because they hurt us. You know, it's crazy. Somewhere I heard Madonna in one of her songs. She says something like, "I'm done. I'm hanging up on you." Like Maria is saying, that's vibrational. That's when someone understands your vibration hurts mine forever. I'm hanging up on you. And people like that's sad, but no, if you want to get out of here, there's no other way. And back home, we have a spiritual practice and a religion where we say our purpose of our life is our highest joy. What is our highest joy? The eternal orgasm, which is our purpose because our purpose, the meaning, the foundation is to know the true self as the avatar and enjoy the true self forever. And like she said, there's 1,000 mirrors to show us who you really are. So don't think the gods could ever be deceived. You know, I don't understand it all, and I would never claim to. But no, I do understand. I do understand. I shouldn't. Maybe I don't understand it completely, but I do understand how an enemy in a holographic simulation is needed to teach someone how, bottom line, the end of the world began with 60 million dead Europeans fighting over what? Fighting over what? Fighting over, bottom line, Britain wanting to rule all of Europe eventually through the European Union because Britain's the chosen ones, right? British Israelite. And people in this day, 2025, is like, how could it possibly be that fucking crazy that these people are going to kill us all? Yeah. Because they're like, yeah, Maria Orsic might be the magic of disappearing and reappearing somewhere else, but we're the magic of scaring the fuck out of you and in one giant crazy berserker frenzy, killing everyone. In a literal, if I can't have all the money, all the houses, all the pieces on the chessboard, we're Hollywood, big, loud, we're going big. What that means is we're going to keep human sacrificing and ramping up the human sacrifice called war. in ways that are going to make you marvel, in ways that are going to make the Christians say Jesus is returning at any time. And they're going to start to say, man, Trump is like John the Baptist. Elon Musk is like John the Baptist. They're like two witnesses. Like she said, in the Hollywood mirrors, then there's the real two. What? Not witnesses. Magicians. Playing with your minds through. I mean, once the veil is torn and you see two computer nerds, they're like, oh yeah, we built all this code. You know, did it freak you out? Did you, sorry, we have a shadow side. We're evil. I mean, you guys finance the drones. We just push the buttons. I mean, you wanted us to do it. And you're like, you're the fucking people that was behind the New World Order. Yeah, we can concentrate, meditate, and visualize better than any of you. It's called imagination, buddy. I like what Maria said one night. Michael Aquino, dick sucker of the New World Order. He had a book called Mind War. And I like Maria Orsic said, more like imagination war. And she's like, thank the gods as individual to individual, and that's what makes them want to kill you, is because, hey, you could be a peon, cookie cutter, microchip, but if you try to be yourself, they'll eventually try to kill you. Right? But as I stood before Allah, as I told you, and they did not find the herb in the, memory from Alleluia, and he's saying to me, though you were confused and though you had the wrong context, he was really literally saying this to me before I was before his throne. And the last time I was before his throne like that, I couldn't even stand in front of him because he's so crazy, magical, powerful. And I mean this literally. I'm not fucking around. My tone might have sounded like that, but and he was dressed in complete leather with even scales on his arms and fingers and shit. Full Marilyn Manson makeup, face makeup, long crazy fingernails, dyed black long hair, and sitting on a giant stone throne in the Christian church. Big, mega Joel Olstein church. No shit. As I have said many times, and now here I am 23 years later, 24 years later, or 23 years later, back before him, and he's dressed like Robin Hood, like you would see in a school play, like the brown little suit, the green tights, the fucking hat with the feather. He had his bow and arrow at the side of the throne. I'm not kidding you. And he's telling me, I'm the actual Jah who answered your prayers and saved your life. He's like, that's not when you killed yourself. And I was baffled. I was fucking baffled. I was like, hold it, Maria. I looked at Maria like, you're not fucking around. And I might be getting out of here. Is that? I mean, you're like a prisoner before the parole board. I couldn't hardly hear anything else except the sort of tone of hold it. He's saying, it's from my perspective. I'm he's saying you did it. You did what you needed to do. That's why you're here. And I started to really, this is when I got super emotional. Because he said to me, he said, not only did I save you from the police that night, he said, just think about it, you probably would have never had any of your kids. You would have been on probation in Florida or something. It would have been a nightmare. It would have been a felony, a serious felony. And he was saying to me, not only did I save you that night, but I saved you here when we were hit by me, my wife, and daughter, who was like 7 months old, or a baby, in a car seat, was hit by a tractor trailer, giant truck. And it's just a miracle that it didn't kill us or hurt us very badly. We literally flew across the highway like a little toy car. And just luckily, no other cars hit us. And we smashed into the median, but it somehow it didn't hurt us that bad. No other cars hit us after that. Thank Maria Orsic. Thank Lucifer. Thank Donna. Thank Donna Lou. Thank Isis. Lucis. And he said, I answered all of your prayers when you were true Rasta. Including, that's why you became a Christian. He's like, the day you stopped being a Rasta was the day I ordained, predestined, allowed your friend, who is your ancestor, back home. That's like a official thing, official title. You and him are connected by ancestry. That's real. Of course. And he said, I'm the one that sent him to tell you that you are wrong. That Haile Selassie's not God. He's like, it's not my fault, Joe, that your true self wanted you to believe that someone else was. Equally stupid because, and I was thinking this before, I'm like, totally, because I wasn't thinking logically. Like he said, there's no other way. Hot or cold, it's either logic or supernatural. And he said, I respect you for going with the supernatural, and I'm telling you tonight, you had to go with the supernatural. You had to go with the golden thread of self-deception because you had to become a Rasta and you had to become a Christian and you had to be the true believer of both. And he's like, so you didn't believe Rastafari as God, you believed Jesus was God. And he's like, you took a step down because the Jesus in the Bible didn't exist. And I was like, I know. I know. And he's like, but you bought it because why? And I'm going to tell this story for real very quickly. I kept in previous wanting to, but this is one reason why I really was thrown into, why I was really convinced that the evidence, not rational, not logical, not data, not proof, but intuitional experience, which is everything. I'm glad that I deceived myself. I want to give you that paradox. There was no other way. There was no other way. There was no other way. For you, for me, for everyone who's getting out of here. There's no other way but the predestined, ordained way. And you're like, well, how could it be both? You'll find out. When you get out of here, you'll find out, whoa, it was predestined for me to do that exact amount of rounds, that exact amount of forgetting, right? But So, like 6 months after Kristen, and after the second voodoo guy with the heart attack, the band broke up. We stopped playing, of course, because, you know, I don't know. It's hard. It's like a family staying together. It's hard. And I decided to fast for 3 days. And it was like sort of a substitute for the mushroom. That's what I would say. And once you are introduced to the mushroom and really know the mushroom, you won't need to fast. And I'm not saying, eat a lot or be a glutton or never fast, but you won't need to fast for that reason anymore. Because this is like a new energy, a new sun, a new person entering the chemistry, entering the mix. And and what Jah was showing me was he gave me the job I needed. Real quick, let me go back to the experience. Sorry. I thought in my mind that I already said it because I was seeing it in my mind. But, okay, sorry. After the band broke up, I decided to fast, and that's when I had the experience. I had those Dan Bowler tapes from St. Louis. And it was definitely the third day of the fast, and I rolled a couple nice little spliffs. I went in my room, put on some reggae, and I'm like, I'm just gonna, meditate and relax, drink some water, drink some tea or something else, drink some. And I was used to fasting, so it was usually the third day. It was very calm and serene, actually. Tranquil, even. I had probably fasted for 3 days, maybe like, at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 times before that. And, or more. And I thought, man, I'm just gonna, really chill because I haven't ate in 3 days. And just, man, I was in a terrible energy space. And I was trying to, I was literally saying, like, I'm just going to try to, let what I need to help me come to me. So I'm sitting on the bed, and I just start getting so agitated, like a panic attack. And I'm so, like, superstitious and fucked up. I'm like, I rebuke you, Satan. You're trying to make me eat. That's how I took it. Like, oh, I'm feeling this, like maybe I should eat. And then I'm thinking, like, that's the exact thoughts they want me to think because I committed to 3 days. And I'm almost to that third day, the fourth day. And, I started pacing around. And I literally, like, calmed my mind down. And I was like, Jaja, Rastafari, speak to me, please. Selassie, show me, what. And it just came out of my mind. What's wrong? What's wrong? Like, if you want to count that as intuition, that was one time it was right. And it wasn't really intuition because it now was in its own way being deduced logically. That bit of data that came from, like, I would consider at that moment the truest me, was something's wrong. And my second thought was, with what I believe. Because I fucking care about what I believe and I don't want to be deceived. Right? And it grew the energy. And I've already told this story. I literally didn't know if it was an audible voice or not, because I was on the third day of a fast, and it was almost like I was leaving my body. I was smoking. But what makes me, what's interesting now that I actually know what it was and how it was happening, the astral plane of the earth, because I wasn't willing to take the otherworldly mushroom because I was brainwashed. So the astral plane, like maybe if I would have ate a bunch of marijuana extract, it would have all happened for me then. But I wasn't willing to do that either because I was a stubborn, mind-controlled cult member. And if you're not open-minded, and I'm not talking about any sort of synthetic bullshit that man makes, but if you're not open to nature, you're not open. You're not one with nature. And we need people to start being one with nature and respecting everything that lives. And then it will all start getting better. Everything. And you'll feel better for your children and your grandchildren. And as I mentioned, I had like a supernatural experience with a voice saying to me, what did they tell you it was all about? And it was like a two-pronged thing. Bob Marley's friend told me Rastafari, Haile Selassie, was all about man becoming God. That Jesus Christ was a man who became God. Haile Selassie was a man who became God. And that sounds good, but that's exactly wrong. Because God doesn't exist. What he was talking about is Yahweh, God of the Bible. If he would have said that, it would have been a lot more clear. Jesus Christ was a man, but he became the God of the Bible. He transcended life and he became Yahweh. I would have been like, huh? Yahweh? Is Yahweh Jah? Interesting question that will come up before the throne of Alleluia. And then there was the two-pronged of the Glen cult leader saying that Haile Selassie was the Holy Spirit. That God was a trinity of Jesus Christ, Father God beyond our knowledge, Jesus Christ the Son, and Haile Selassie the Holy Spirit. Again, sounds pretty good, but Father God doesn't exist. The other two do, in their own way, as small g gods. But the big unknowable God will always be unknowable and will always be a trick of the intuition of knowing that exists but not experiencing it, that will lead people on for millions of years of still having faith and believing in God. And every time, a million years from now, you question them, they'll say, it's everything, the energy. And we're like, but why would you call it God? Because you're a cult member. But anyway, this is how I became a cult member. They never told me who they were. The voice, I said, who are you? It just pointed out to me that Haile Selassie could never be the Holy Spirit according to the Bible. Because they knew my life. The person speaking to me knew my life and knew that if it showed me that knew I was brainwashed into thinking that the Bible was a supernatural book from God, Jah, It's very confusing on purpose. In authenticating the inauthentic, right? This is what all this does in its own complex, genius way. And I said, "Who are you?" And no reply. It didn't say, "I'm God" or "I'm Jesus." No reply. It said to me, what did they say? It was all about the Rastafarians. What did they tell you that life was all about? Man becoming God, that's nonsense. And number 2, Haile Selassie is the third person of the Trinity. The Holy Spirit. Spirit doesn't have body, flesh, blood. That defies the actual definition. Nonsense. Rasta, as far as in my mind at that moment, was nonsense. And don't ask me how, but it was like the next day I was a Christian, because Rastafari as a movement and as a religion was like hijacked by Christian Rastas to, of course, pass the plate and have a job. Everyone wants to have a job and provide for the family. And, people who teach other people, they justify it, but we don't. We don't. And it always ends up in that tithe or give to us, but that's not the way it's supposed to happen. That's not the true teacher to the true student. That's never how it works, ever. And so I don't know. The next day it was like I was a Rasta. The next day after being a Rasta, it was like I was a Christian. And this is how I was like propelled into it. Because I also, I took the whole experience of it saying like, yeah, Haile Selassie isn't the Holy Spirit, but Jesus is the Son. A terrible assumption. Because it's comic bookish, and I'm not talking about the real God of Pisces, of course. But I believe it was like a week or 2 later was the next Prophecy Club meeting, and I went, and it was a very strange meeting with this guy saying that he's had all these dreams about America being destroyed, America going to war, America being invaded. He was very emotional, and afterwards he said, I've, as much as I've come here to prophesy to you, I've come here to pray for you and try to help you, as the Bible says, So as people were lining up to being prayed, they started singing like Christian songs and shit that I didn't know. I hadn't been in a Christian church since I was 16 or something. And so it'd been for like 15 years, and I had cut my dreads, though, because I was no longer Rasta. I did cut my hair. And I am not kidding you. I had no preconception of this happening or anything. But as people were lining up to pray and they were singing, I was sitting in my seat just listening. And I was like, man, this is pretty. These people are singing pretty good. And like all of a sudden, it sounded like from the back of the room, like 10 women, perfectly choir, multi-harmonies, just singing totally in key, but singing their own vocal melody in another language. It was so clear to me, I completely turned around in my seat and was looking for who are these women. I thought, man, maybe, it's like some women from a church or something, and they're in the back, and they just happen to be here at this meeting, and now I am not kidding you. I stood up and fucking walked around, and just everywhere I walked, I heard it. I even got up to be prayed for. I was like, fuck, man, I'll go try this dude's prayer, you know? And as I was being prayed for, I could still hear the women singing, right? And I was there with like several different people. I talked about Matt earlier. I asked a couple people, do you hear like women beautifully singing along with the song, but in their own language, in a different language? And my wife's like, no. I asked Matt, and he's like, oh my God, I do. He's like, now that you said that, he's like, the moment you said that, Joe, I hear it. And me and him sat by each other in the back. I'm like, dude, I still hear it. And he's like, I do too. And it was like the you know, it was kind of dying down, the human singing. And we kept saying to each other, I still hear it. I still hear these women singing, you know. And someone, I mean, please sympathize with me. Can't you see how I walked away from that meeting going, dude, all these years I was a Rasta, I don't know how the fuck, but the Christians are right, I guess. You know, because I wasn't, I wasn't in, like you might say, fellowship, quote, fellowship with any Christians. I only knew Rastas. And the only Christians I knew were my cousin, who was a Rasta as long as me. And a couple other Rastas were Rastas as long as me. And, you know, listened to me and agreed with me. And it mainly was a retarded question of the Bible. And that is what would take me 7 more years to realize, or 8 more years, to realize that the Bible was not it's just so dumb to say, Word of God. And that it was not supernaturally protected in any way, shape, or form. It was put together by a man. It's all man. And man, would I one day be standing by the fairy tree in my backyard, and Maria Orsic say to me, you know what the Bible is, don't you? I said, it is one hell of a trick, a hell of a deceiving, horrible, life-ruining machine. And she said, yeah, who's that reflect? And I said, Aleister Crowley. And she said, you got it. She said, congratulations. You finally remembered what the Bible is. And I went, I know. You're right. I always did know that prick was behind something so hokey, so cheesy, so unoriginal. You know, when a dumb slave like me first reads the Bible, because he's taking it literal, he's amazed. God was doing all these miracles. And then you find out, but he's going to let the neighbor's kid with a brain tumor die. I watched it. He's going to let the lady at church who prays her ass off die of cancer. I watched it happen. You know, so this miracle-working motherfucker, so he don't do miracles no more. Because why? Oh, you know why? Because you got a Bible now. You know, he don't need to do miracles to prove who he is. He gave you the Word of God. Fuck your tumor. Fuck your suffering. Fuck you. I don't care how much you pray. I don't care how much you suffer. whether your son is healed of that tumor, your daughter dies of that blood disease, it's because sin came into the world through that woman. It's all her fault. I mean, that's comic book Hollywood, right? I parted seas. I killed whole nations. I did giant miracles, but this one little tiny thing for this little bitty baby, fuck you, no. Fuck you, no. Fuck you, no. I mean, come on. You're making excuses. That's not Jah. He was telling me. And so he showed me, I gave you the job, perfect job for me. Absolutely perfect job. Thank you so much, Jah. Alleluia. Allah. He was showing me, by giving you that scarf was my way of showing you. I gave you a good wife that was a good mother to your children, who kept you in check in every way so that you'd be here today and, wouldn't be successful in the world. But it's true. I mean, that can really, really ruin the truth. And thank you to her for that. And he was like, the very, 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 very most thing you wanted was to really know Jah. He said, I never forgot your sincere prayer from your heart. And now I was weeping and weeping. Because he was also showing me, like, your enemies followed you into this world and they wanted to kill your children, wanted to kill you, and all that pressure on your wife, your children. It was all because of who you were before you came here. And it never will be any other way. It had to be this way because you're getting out of here. Like, I'm the one. He said there is going to be no other ceremony. Like, this is it, Joe. When you die, Maria will just take you to your new home in the inner earth Zion, where I rule, of course. And I rule on earth too, but I like to let them have what they want, right? Give them what they want. Give the people what they want. They want Crowley. They want evil. They want dark. They want to turn eternal true love into regular love, right? Regular love is real. Everything else is an illusion. He said, I agree with your mother. That's bullshit. I wouldn't be here. I couldn't imagine this simulation hologram. And my wife and my daughter and my son, we couldn't be here if that was true. If life was that mundane, if it was all that just stupid and dumb, then we wouldn't be here. But the truth is this complex, and the worlds are polar opposite are required. And he said, I am Jah. I am the one that protected your children and healed your son and kept them and you alive to this day. And I was like, wow. And he's like, and I heard all the bad things you said about me, but you didn't mean me. You meant Yahweh. And he said, I agreed with everything you said. He said, we've all done things, Joe. We've all took actions we didn't mean, and we regret them. That's what that's about. I created that character Yahweh in my book to reflect. There's things I wish I never would have done. There's things I did out of anger and hate. And I wish they didn't exist in any time and space, but they do in me and you and Maria. All of us together live with everything we've done. And our stories of transformation and metamorphosis. That's why I'm Allah, Luja, Odin, Wotan, and I am my son, my astral son, Baldur, Balsdor, Baal, the earth's door. I'm the earth's door. Imagination is creation, Joseph. He said to me, your mother, he said, do you also know that this isn't ended? And there was a bright, beautiful... Now, by this time in the experience before Lucifer's throne, the giant, I now was crying and in tears of joy and really looking in him. And I was like, I'm 55 years old. My immediate thought was like, you look like a kid. You look like you're 20 years old. And he was like, 20 billion. More like 20 billion. And I was having some crazy, crazy deep emotional experiences. Like, he was telling me, all I ask from you, because it's all you asked of me. He's like, that's why we're friends. He's like, I want to tell my story, but you're going to feel it. And you're going to have to, like, live it. Because it's got to be authentic. And he's like, I swear to you, I'll provide everything once we begin. And it's all about leaving America and starting these teaching communities. And all I ask you is to write my story. He said, we'll title it something like The True Personality of Yahweh. He's like, we can have like an old time, like one of those long titles, The True Personality of Yahweh. Yahweh. The story of Earth holographic simulation and the deeper meaning that some of you are here to gain the polarity to become a god and imagine your own world like Allah Luja is doing right now. And that's why Maria was taking me to see these beautiful worlds that are built by the imagination of individual groups of people, like 3, 4, 5, 6, like Lou said, up to 12. And they were so beautiful, but no one's allowed there because it will ruin everything. And they're sufficient. And they do come out sometimes, And she said, that's what you want. That's all the years you and I have been together. She was like, you want to stay with me and keep doing our work, which, like she said, in some ways will continue. But you also want to, because you believe in your own creativity, in your own artistic essence, power, you want to imagine your own world with your people you love. And she said to me, Joe, that's the final reason you came to the simulation. You probably would not have come unless I made it clear to you. There's no other way to imagine your own world. The gods themselves will not allow you into the technology which will allow you to create your own world. You have to willingly go to the simulation, the Earth hologram, and you must tell me, your teacher, in writing, all the things that you believe you must experience as far as sorrow and suffering to be able to gain a polarity to imagine an interesting world that I would like to visit. Because if you're not going to be my spokesman, then I want to come to your world and see you as much as possible. I was like, Mother, of course. And she said, I'm sorry, but there is no other way.
Remember, recover, return. Yeah, I'm fed up, man, the world's in decay. Everybody's selfish, lost in the sway. Church got secrets, but here's what I say. Truth ain't that complex, it's been here always. Look, it twisted the story, flipped it disguised. Told us to search out there, but truth's inside. The church got a vault where the knowledge stay hid, but the greatest all tried to show us what they did. Yeshua, Magdalene, they unlocked the soul. Callie and Shiva showed how to get whole. Mother Mary whispered, the kingdom's within. Tesla sparked visions that ain't just pretend. It's simple, yo, go inward, get still. Tune in the ancestors, feel what they feel. Ether, plasma, the energy's yours. The door is always open, stop waiting for more. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. They got us divided, distracted by screens, lost in illusions, caught up in schemes. But Joan of Arc stood, even burned at the stake. She knew the truth that no fire could break. Maria Orsic tried to tell us to rise. Tesla drew circuits straight from the skies. Edgar Cayce, dreaming through time and space, gave us the blueprint, the whole human race. Haters beat hums in the heart of the earth, reminds us all of divine rebirth. The path is ancient, but clear as day. Go inside, that's the only way. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. We just gotta remember what we forgot. Recover the truth that the world cannot. Return to the source, it's inside, it burns. Yo, this is the time to remember, recover, return. They want us divided, consumed by the lies. Tell us God's distant, beyond the skies. But every great soul, every prophet who came said, look within, it's one and the same. Shiva, Kali, destroy, rebuild. The blueprint's ancient, it's how we get filled. You don't need a middleman selling the way. The truth's in the silence when you choose to stay. But let's remember what Tesla laid down. Recover the crown, it's ours to be found. The truth's in the stillness, in breath in the stars. It's written in spirit, not behind bars. This is the anthem, the call to return. Time to remember, ignite and burn. No more distractions, the truth is alive. Go within, that's where God will arrive. We just gotta remember what, gotta remember what, gotta remember what, we just gotta remember what. We just gotta remember what. Gonzo. Recover, return. Yeah. Recover, return. Yo. Honest. And then the recover, return. Thank you, God. They brought us the bug. We're leaving our bug. We gotta go. Okay.